Recruiting the pilot. How Mossad turned Munir Redfa. Turning an aircraft was impossible. Turning a man was not. By the mid-1960s, Mossad understood that Operation Diamond would succeed or fail not in the skies, but in the mind of a single pilot. Technology could not be stolen unless trust was first dismantled, slowly, carefully, without leaving a trace. Munir Redfa was not a traitor by nature. He was a professional, a patriot, a pilot who believed in duty, which made him the most dangerous kind of recruit to approach. Captain Munir Redfa flew the MiG-21 with precision and discipline. His superiors respected his flying skills, but respect did not translate into trust. In the Iraqi Air Force, Redfa was an outsider. As a Christian Assyrian, he lived under constant suspicion. Promotions passed him by. Commanders questioned his loyalty. Fellow pilots kept their distance. But discrimination was only part of the burden. Redfa was also being asked to do something that haunted him deeply: bomb civilians. During operations against Kurdish rebels in northern Iraq, Redfa flew missions that targeted villages, not military positions. He watched explosions tear through homes, fields, and families. Each sortie left him more conflicted. He obeyed orders, but something inside him was breaking. Mossad never rushed a recruitment. Before approaching Redfa, Israeli intelligence spent months, possibly years, building his psychological profile. They learned his family structure, his financial situation, his grievances, his moral limits, his fears. They knew he was not driven by money alone. They knew he was not an ideologue. And they knew that guilt was eating away at him. That made him reachable, but not controllable. The first contact was not dramatic. There were no secret meetings in dark rooms, no sudden offers of defection, no threats. Instead, Mossad used indirect channels: foreign businessmen, casual conversations, third-party intermediaries who never mentioned Israel by name. Redfa was not told he was being recruited. He was being listened to. And slowly, carefully, he began to speak. What Mossad discovered confirmed their assessment. Redfa felt trapped. He feared the regime. He feared being exposed as disloyal. And above all, he feared for his family. In Iraq, punishment did not stop with the accused. Families disappeared. Relatives were imprisoned. Children paid for the sins of their parents. Redfa knew that any act of defiance would condemn everyone he loved. That fear was absolute. So Mossad did not challenge it. They addressed it. When the true proposal finally emerged, it was framed carefully, not as betrayal, not as ideology, not as politics, but as escape. Mossad agents spoke of safety, of protection, of a future where Redfa's children would not grow up under suspicion. They did not ask him to defect. They asked him to imagine survival. And then Redfa said something that changed everything. He would consider it, but only under one condition. Mossad must extract his entire extended family out of Iraq before he ever touched the MiG-21. Not just his wife and children, not just his parents. Everyone. If even one relative was left behind, the deal was off. This was not negotiation. It was non-negotiable. For Mossad, this condition was almost unacceptable. Extracting one family was dangerous. Extracting multiple families from a hostile Arab state was unprecedented. Doing it quietly, without alerting Iraqi intelligence, bordered on impossible. Failure would mean exposure of Israeli agents, retaliation against informants, diplomatic disaster, and the loss of the MiG-21 forever. But success would deliver the ultimate prize. What followed was a logistical nightmare. Each family member had to be moved separately. No patterns, no shared routes, no obvious connections. Some were smuggled through neighboring countries. Others were quietly granted travel permits under false pretenses. Some disappeared into Europe before eventually reaching Israel. Every movement carried risk. One mistake would unravel everything. Redfa was kept informed, but only minimally. Too much information increased the danger. For weeks, then months, he waited, flying missions, playing his role, hiding the truth behind discipline and silence. During this period, Mossad tested Redfa constantly, not with loyalty tests, but with restraint. They wanted to know if he could hold his nerve. He did, despite stress, despite fear, despite the knowledge that his life was balanced on a knife's edge. When Mossad finally confirmed that every family member was safe, the operation crossed a point of no return. Now, only the aircraft remained. The flight had to look ordinary. No unusual fuel requests. No suspicious flight plan. No deviation that could raise alarms before it was too late. Redfa would take off on a routine training mission from Habaniya Air Base. Once airborne, he would wait. Wait until radar coverage thinned. Wait until fuel calculations became critical. Wait until there was no turning back. Only then would he turn west. In the final days before the flight, Redfa slept little. He was not afraid of death. He was afraid of failure. If his engine failed, he would crash. If he was intercepted, he would be shot down. If he hesitated, his family would die. This was not defection. It was a one-way leap into history. On the Israeli side, preparations were equally tense. Fighter jets were on standby, not to intercept, but to escort. Air defense units were briefed to hold fire. Radar operators were informed, partially, carefully. Only a handful of people knew the full truth. If Redfa failed to appear, Israel would deny everything. If he succeeded, the world would never be the same. On the morning of August 16, 1966, Munir Redfa walked toward his MiG-21. The aircraft gleamed in the sun, its Soviet insignia visible, its engine humming with lethal power. To everyone watching, it was just another sortie. To Redfa, it was the last moment of his old life. He climbed into the cockpit, checked his instruments, and started the engine. History was now airborne. The ultimate prize, why the MiG-21 became a matter of survival. In the early 1960s, the Cold War was no longer a distant ideological struggle. It was loud, it was fast, and it was flying at twice the speed of sound. Above the deserts of the Middle East and the jungles of Southeast Asia, a single aircraft had begun to haunt Western military planners. Its name was simple, its shape was brutal, and its reputation was terrifying: the MiG-21. By 1961, the Soviet MiG-21 had become the most feared fighter jet on Earth. It was small, fast, and deadly. Capable of exceeding Mach 2, the MiG-21 could climb faster than most Western aircraft, intercept bombers with ease, and dominate close-range air combat. Its delta wings allowed extreme agility at high speeds, while its powerful engine gave it blistering acceleration in a straight line. To many Western analysts, it seemed unstoppable. For Israel, it was an existential threat. Surrounded by hostile neighbors equipped with Soviet weapons, Israel faced air forces flying MiG-21 supplied directly by Moscow. Egyptian, Syrian, and Iraqi pilots were being trained to use an aircraft that could outperform most of Israel's existing fighters. Even the respected French Mirage 3, Israel's most advanced jet at the time, struggled to match the MiG-21 under certain conditions. The balance of power in the skies was shifting, and Israel knew it. Israel did not have the luxury of defeat. Unlike superpowers, it could not absorb losses and rebuild slowly. A single failed war could mean annihilation. Air superiority was not a strategic advantage. It was a requirement for survival. Every enemy aircraft represented a direct threat to cities, infrastructure, and civilians. Israeli intelligence quickly realized a brutal truth. They were facing an aircraft they did not fully understand. They knew its speed. They knew its weapons. But they did not know its weaknesses. And guessing in aerial combat meant death. The MiG-21 was more than a fighter. It was a symbol of Soviet secrecy. The USSR guarded its advanced technology obsessively. Blueprints were classified. Training manuals were restricted. Even Allied nations received limited technical information. Western intelligence relied on fragments, radar signatures, combat reports, pilot testimonies, aerial photographs. But none of it answered the most important question: how do you defeat a MiG-21 in a real dogfight? To answer that, you needed to fly one, and no Western pilot ever had. Far from the Middle East, another battlefield was already delivering ominous lessons. In Vietnam, American pilots flying technologically superior aircraft were struggling against North Vietnamese MiG-21s. Despite advanced missiles and radar, U.S. fighters were being surprised, outmaneuvered, and shot down. The MiG-21 refused to behave like Western doctrine predicted. It did not fight at long range. It did not stay high. It attacked suddenly, violently, and disappeared. American confidence was cracking. Israeli concern turned into urgency. If the MiG-21 could challenge the United States, what chance did Israel have without understanding it completely? Inside Mossad headquarters, a radical idea began to circulate. Not destroy the MiG-21, not intercept it, not study wreckage. Steal it. An intact MiG-21, with its engine, its radar, its flight characteristics, its secrets. It sounded impossible, until it didn't. Mossad understood something fundamental. Machines do not defect. People do. If Israel could not penetrate Soviet technology, it could penetrate Soviet alliances. Somewhere inside the Arab Air Forces, there had to be a pilot who was unhappy, isolated, or afraid. Someone who could be turned. The search began quietly. Profiles were built. Psychological assessments were made. Pilots were observed for signs of doubt. Most were loyal. Some were fanatical. Many were unreachable. Then one name stood out. Munir Redfa. Captain Munir Redfa was an experienced Iraqi Air Force pilot. He flew the MiG-21. But unlike most of his peers, Redfa did not fit neatly into the system. He was a Christian Assyrian in a Muslim-dominated military. He faced discrimination. His career was stagnating despite his skills. Worse still, he was deeply troubled by his missions. Redfa had been ordered to bomb Kurdish villages, civilians, not soldiers. Each mission weighed heavier on his conscience. He was loyal to his country, but he was losing faith in its cause. For Mossad, this was not an opportunity. It was a calculation. Mossad did not rush. They never did. Contact was indirect at first. Whispers, intermediaries, subtle signals. They studied Redfa's personality, his fears, his values. They understood one crucial thing. Redfa was not motivated by ideology. He was motivated by family. When Mossad finally made its move, it was not with threats or propaganda. It was with a promise, a new life, safety, and above all, protection for his entire family. Not just his wife and children. Everyone. Redfa listened. And then he set a condition so extreme it nearly ended the operation. He would defect, but only if Mossad could extract his entire extended family from Iraq, parents, siblings, relatives, before he ever touched the cockpit. If even one was left behind, he would refuse. For Mossad, this was unprecedented. Smuggling a pilot was dangerous. Smuggling an aircraft was historic. Smuggling an entire family network out of a hostile state was madness. But the prize was worth it. The MiG-21 was worth everything. By 1966, Operation Diamond was born. A plan so audacious that failure meant disaster. Redfa would be executed. His family would be punished. Mossad agents would be exposed. Israel would face Soviet retaliation. But success would change the balance of power in the Middle East, and possibly the world. For the first time, the West would hold the Soviet Union's most feared fighter in its hands. The clock was ticking. The MiG-21 was waiting. And history was about to take a turn no one could undo.